So should DeVonta Smith really be drafted ahead of A.J. Brown this season? This is the Fantasy Sports Bus. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe, hit the notification, and the like button. So today I wanted to talk about the Eagles wide receivers, namely, obviously, A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith. And what's really interesting to me is if you look at the early ADPs of both of these players, a few things stand out. Now, first of all, A.J. Brown is right now at this very moment the 14th player off the board. So we're talking very early second round. Average draft position 14 and 15 in that area code. While DeVonta Smith is the 28th player off the board. So, a full 14 picks between the two of them. But, and in terms of DeVonta Smith, the 28th player overall, you're talking about a third round pick. So should the difference between these two be that vast? Should they be going 14 picks apart? To start with that argument, let's just look at the last season's production. Now, both guys played in all 17 games. And Brown, his first year with the Eagles, was a resounding success. He big play guy with the Tennessee Titans his first 3 years in the league. But what was really annoying about A.J. Brown is that he never really had the high catch totals, that made him more valuable in PPR leagues. His previous high of receptions was 70. Big play guy, no doubt about it, but ran very, very hot and cold. With the Eagles, opened up the season like gangbusters, and for the season altogether, posted a career high 88 receptions, also a career high 1,496 yards, and a career high matching 11 touchdowns, which he did during his sophomore NFL season in 2010. So massive, successful season for Brown. Clear wide receiver one in standard formats and a low-end wide receiver one in PPR. DeVonta Smith, his journey to at least top wide receiver two numbers last season was a little bit more delayed. He really didn't get going until the midway point in the season. But from the midway point on through the end of the season, you can't name me maybe two or three better receivers in football. So starting in week 15, all the way through the conclusion of the season, starting in week 13 through the end of the season, week 18, Smith posted 4 out of 6 games of over 100 receiving yards, caught at least 5 passes in all those games, and was just a massively productive player. 4 total touchdowns during that stretch. He was a true league winner down the stretch. There's no doubt about it. So, and for the season now, in terms of DeVonta Smith, he surpassed A.J. Brown in receptions with 95, came up short in the receiving yards, 1,196, and 7 touchdowns. So he wasn't able to exceed Brown in yardage and touchdowns, and that's to be expected because Brown is a bigger receiver. DeVonta Smith is a smaller receiver, but he produced more receptions. And really, the Eagles' offense was nuclear when Smith went off during the second half of the season. And the Eagles really haven't brought anybody in, so it's going to be a very limited target tree again between A.J. Brown, DeVonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert. So, again, looking at the fact that Smith caught more passes than Brown, was the more productive player of the two the second half of the season, but is going 14 picks later. If you want a part of this Eagles offense, I'd rather take the value of DeVonta Smith in the third round than go with A.J. Brown, in the early second round. So that's just, in fact, in the early second round area, you could make a case that Garrett Wilson is the better draft pick because Garrett Wilson is the clear number one guy. And you know how Aaron Rodgers loves to lock into his number one guy. He's said nothing but glowing things, comparing him to Davante Adams. There's going to be massive numbers. You already know how I feel about Garrett Wilson. A.J. Brown is not going to have as consistent reception numbers game in and game out as probably Garrett Wilson's going to have. And so you could have a scenario where if you do take a running back in round 1, you could take Garrett Wilson, in maybe round 2, hope DeVonta Smith falls to you in round 3. And even, if that doesn't happen and you have an early first round pick and then you take a Justin Jefferson, you could get DeVonta Smith early in the third round, which is a plausible scenario as well. So there's a lot of things at play here. I do worry a little bit about DeVonta Smith. I mean, let's face it, he's a smallish receiver. That was a little bit of a knock on him coming out of college, 6'1", 170, but he is an impossible cover. He's getting open as consistently as any receiver in football. A tremendous short area explosive speed. He is a matchup nightmare for any defensive back. As long as he stays on the field, he's going to be very productive. So again, if you have a early to mid first round pick and you take a receiver, like I said, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp, DeVonta Smith will probably be there for you in the beginning of the third round, and then you have 2 stud receivers right off the bat if you take a running back in round 2 or whatnot. So that's a scenario, a plausible scenario that you can envision to start off your team with. All right, guys, hit the subscribe, hit the notification button. More videos on the way soon.